Hello and welcome back to Planet Coaster. We will be working on a different section of the park today, and this section over here, marked by this little path oval, is the kind of jousting arena that we've been talking about for a little while. We're going to start off by making some of the bleachers. Bleachers, of course, being made out of wood. It took me a couple attempts because what I wanted to do was, of course, use copy and paste to our advantage. Not lining it up to the grid early on means we're going to have trouble down the line. So I had to delete the first attempt and readjust some things just so we could get this thing to function. And you can see that it's a little wider in between these two sections here, and that's because the upper section is going to be a little pathway for people to walk parallel with the bleachers, and will allow them to have access to those upper sections without disturbing everyone on the lower section of seating. Not like that really matters in Planet Coaster because we don't really have anything like that in the game, but for me, it has to at least make some sense as to why it's designed that way. And I think that's a big kind of design philosophy I have with generally anything I build, is that it has to have somewhat of a functional purpose, or at least look functional enough to where people don't immediately question it. That's definitely one of the harder things to do. We're going to be adding some backboard kind of orangey red colors beneath the dark brown wood, and that's just going to give us a little bit of a nice color break from the seating areas to the vertical runner boards of the seats and stairs themselves. Now, the bleachers, fairly straightforward. It's a lot of copy and paste. You can move it around relatively easily. And the center, of course, is going to have some railing here. This is basically to just designate where that staircase is, because obviously it just looks like seating as everywhere else. So if we put some orange railings coming down, that's going to pop that out, and your eye is just going to read that instantly as, oh, this is the access point to the upper bleachers. So it ended up working out. Now the bleachers size, they're about, you can probably get 4 to 6 people comfortably on each little section. And so there is a decent amount of seating available in this, as we'll be able to copy and paste this whole structure over to the other side as well, giving us an equal amount of bleachers on the actual jousting ring. The front will have a little bit of a wall here just to keep, the spectators away from the ring itself, though there is a path in the ring, and I'm doing that, of course, to keep kind of traffic a feasible thing in the park itself. I want people to be interacting with a lot of these scenery pieces, so it might not make sense in realistic terms. It just needs to work so that people actually come to this section of the park. Otherwise, if they just walk by it, it'll never look like it's used for anything, and it's just this building sitting there. And I am totally against that. I want my people to be interacting with it. I want to be able to say that this has a purpose. In fact, down here below, there's this little overhang. There's kind of higher, you could say, seating class up in the covered section there, and that covered section is like where maybe the queen would be sitting, or the royalty would be sitting to cheer for their knights and things like that. So we're going to be dividing this into a red versus blue team element. So this is the blue team side, hence why it has that blue awning across. The red side will have a red awning, but underneath the kind of the royal seating that we kind of got sidetracked talking about is 2 food stalls, and the other side will have 2 food stalls as well. So this is where people will go down, get some food for the show maybe, and also will give them a reason to come here. It's just all about trying to manage where people are walking and why they're going there in the long run. I wanted long banisters kind of off the side, make the thing look fancy, but those runners that they have just don't look all that great to me. And so we're going to experiment possibly hanging them out to the side like that. We're going to settle with these flags here as soon as I actually, place them down. And these are just the normal vertical flags, just standard flags. and just tilt it 90 degrees, and that's going to give us our kind of fancier elements, showcasing that this is more of a higher end building itself. These arches, I was kind of fiddling with them a little bit. I couldn't get everything lined up quite how I wanted, so I decided to just go with a full single arch down on the lower areas to accentuate that stonework down there, and to break it up. You gotta break up your surfaces. You can't have everything looking the same. It's a relatively quick speed build section for the day. I didn't want to cover and record a lot of placing the trees and some of the other decorations around the area, as I feel like we've done that enough. I don't really need to show you guys me placing trees for the 1,000th time. So that's not included in this build itself. It's just the seating areas and then some of the backstage elements to the actual show itself, and using copy and paste to our advantage in terms of trying to get, all these things laid out quickly as possible and efficiently as possible. Now, we're gonna have to cut away some of the mountainside. Obviously, we didn't have enough room. This actually, surprisingly, doesn't take up as little room as I thought it would. It takes up a lot more than I thought it would for sure, just because of the ring itself. The ring is a very vast open space, and I really kind of underestimated that when I first laid out the valley down here. So that's why we had to extend it, and then also we'll have to try and work on this low ring wall going around the whole thing, get that all nice and closed in, and later we'll of course color the grass to be more of a dirt sandy color. The center post here, this is the center of the ring itself, and dividing the two lancers, I guess you could call them. And we're gonna start with a base of mud, because mud, of course, is going to give us that dark brown, and then I'm going to bring in some highlighting areas on it, and I try and bring in the highlights where they might be running the most. So at the ends where they bring the horse around, and at the middle where they collide at, I just wanted to highlight those sections specifically. Again, we have the red versus blue team kind of effects here, so a blue tent and a red tent for their knights respectively. And at this point, we're just going to start on a few little outbuildings to the side. Now, these are the stables that are attached to the little jousting arena. And they're quaint, they're nice, thatch roofing. I love the thatch, and trying to make little layers out of them. Like, we're going from a 30-degree kind of overhang section here to a nice 45-degree proper roof. We'll give it some nice wooden trim, just to trim it up and really frame those little rough areas as best as possible, and even throw in some stone on the sides just to make it look really sturdy in certain areas, and to break up the color and try and just bring in more textures in different areas as much as possible. There was a little bit of a gap at the roof line there, so using a chimney is a good decorative piece, not only for just the roof line itself, but also I'm using it as a gap filler, and trying to find something that might work with the building. So the red brick, obviously, I think works with the red kind of stucco kind of little stables here. Now there's going to be two stables. We're just copy and paste this one over. Each one will have enough for 3 horses, I guess, technically. So there's 3 doors on each one, with 3 little windows on the backside, so the horse can stick its head out. And we got a little courtyard area out front, which we will put kind of a gatehouse here, which will separate the stables from the tournament area, if I can speak. And that's going to give us a nice little break between the two, so that people aren't going to see the horses until they're actually coming out to perform. I'm sure off hours and things like that, they could allow people back there, talk about the horses, maybe let some people ride them or feed them an apple. Who knows? It's just right now you need ways to kind of division up the two areas so people aren't getting distracted during the show. So that's why we have the gatehouse, and we'll even put a little bit of a wooden wall around the whole compound of the stables just to block that off even more. and that'll also keep the horses hopefully from being scared from all the people if there's too many people around, and will hopefully keep some of the noise out of the rest of the area, and so hopefully they'll be a little bit more comfortable back in their kind of backstage section. So here is how we are going to do the wooden wall, and it's just posts, and I'm using walls themselves, like base template walls, to allow me to quickly place these down, and then we'll just kind of copy and paste the method directly down and over many a times, encircling the whole compound. So at this point, let's go ahead and take a look at it at real time. Okay, so this is the finished jousting arena and backstage area that we have built this episode. It does take up a wide area, and placing all these trees, trying to make it fit the terrain, at least loosely to begin with. We'll go back in and do a final touch-up on the whole park once we have all the building placement done, but this is currently where we are at. I'm not going to be moving the camera hopefully too much. I just want to try and keep my FPS as high as possible. But if we take a look at the general setup here, just from afar, guests will walk around the ring very commonly. There's some food stalls hidden in the red encampment, and there's also food stalls hidden in the blue encampment. You guys have already seen all that. I do like seeing the people walk along the paths on the inside here. It just makes it look like it's being used for something rather than nothing. It's a big area that I just wanted people to go in and out from. There's also this little section to the left. These are just some standard stalls. These are ones that we've used elsewhere in the park. We're just bringing them back down here so that there's some, used area along this fence. And this fence encircles the stables area. Inside, maybe a little bit of a campground for the person watching over the horses. Who knows? Just trying to build little stories hidden amongst the stuff. I don't know why I put a tree in the middle of this kind of stable yard. That made no sense. We got, barrels. We got a barn attachment just maybe as a wash area for their horses so they can brush them, clean them, keep them all nice and good looking. They could also probably put their armor and things on in there just so they have a nice shady spot. Armor is very hot, especially for horses, I'm sure. I snuck in some restrooms on the back side of the towers, dividing the backstage area to the jousting arena, and that allows people to at least interact a little bit with this section. I don't know if I want to put something in here to get people to go in all the way or not, or I just might want to leave it kind of this dirt courtyard, more or less, and leave it open, because from a distance, it kind of fits the terrain nicely. We have plenty of more trees and stuff that we can do to really kind of seal it in and make it look a little bit more overgrown, but that's for another time, I think. So if we come down here, you guys can see just the seating in general, and if we actually pick up a guest, I'm going to pause the game just so it doesn't get too dark. You can see how large these benches are compared to our people. So obviously, you're going to be able to fit a decent amount. I would say, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 7 or 8, I guess. I was wrong on my initial measurement earlier on the episode. So 7 or 8 people per little stretch here. And obviously you can fit a fair amount to the left and the right. I think the best viewing angle of this is probably right here. You get that nice low wall going around. You can see the middle divider going across here, the dividing gate, and then I even threw in a little animatronic knight, possibly one of the people doing a joust or something like that, just standing here greeting some people or falling asleep on his sword. That is one of the animatronics we have in the game at this moment. Back here, this little back area is just like a little warm-up area, and also during the show, obviously people can see into this gate, so you might want to have people waiting back here more out of sight so you don't see who's coming out next and so forth. So you there's little things like that to think about when you're thinking about the large overall performance and backstage area to some scenery pieces like this. Alright, I think that's going to do us for this episode. I know it's a relatively short one. It's not an overly complicated build, but it's just a large area, as I said, in general. So, we're going to finish this, and it did cover a large swath of land. We'll put in some of the games, I think, next. Some more shops down here by the forge, I believe. Yes, the forge. And over here, we'll put some stalls and things. So there's not too many episodes left. I would say maybe 4-5 tops of Planet Coaster, the Renaissance Fair. And then it will be released on Steam for you guys to download and check out yourself. I'm just going to pull back just so you can get kind of a size comparison of everything. And we'll just do straight vertical here. So you can see, roughly how big this plaza is compared to the one over here on the ruin section. This is the main stage, of course, fairly large, not as large as the total compound for the Jousting arena, and then we have this small haunted stage. So everything is just looking great. I'm really happy with the build so far, and I hope you guys are as well. If you guys enjoyed today's episode, feel free to leave a like down below. Go ahead and subscribe if you're new. Check out my other videos, how we built all of this and the other things that I'm currently building and working on. And until then, I'll see you all in the next one.